Once it's signed, that's your contract for maybe forever. People lie, okay? People lie. If they offer you $350, go for $425. These numbers are really alluring, but they're really meant to trap you in your job. And if you're miserable, it's obviously not going to be worth it at all. Know your value. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. They will really make you believe that it's a standardized contract and they cannot change the contract. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Yasha Gupta. I'm a board certified radiologist, and today we're going to be talking about contract negotiation for doctors, but specifically for radiologists. So if this is interesting to you, I hope you enjoy. Contract negotiation can be so difficult because you don't want to offend the person that you're potentially going to work for. You don't want to cross any lines, but at the same time, you want to, make sure that you're getting like the most that you possibly can out of the contract, right? Because once it's signed, that's your contract for maybe forever. And so I understand why this is so difficult. And also we are not really taught how to do these things. And then you also don't know what's negotiable, what's not, what's normal. People don't like to talk about money, although right now it seems like everyone is talking about money. But usually that's sort of a taboo subject that people don't want to talk about. And so it can be really hard. But I hope in this video I talk you through the things that I have experienced or that I, learned along the way, things that I heard my colleagues learn along the way, and then also my dad, who is in private practice, he sort of imparts his wisdom on me all the time. And so he's the president of his group, private practice, and he's always hiring people and trying to find people and trying to offer things. And so I feel like I get a good mix of what is possible, what is to be expected, and also like what I've experienced. So I hope that all of that I can put it all into this video for you. Before we begin, I do think that the first thing that you need to do is, before you think about contract negotiation, even before you think about like what jobs you want, you need to think about your priorities. So what are the things that are absolutely non-negotiable to you? What are the most important things for you? And what are the things that you're able to sort of flex? So for example, for me, I was very hard set on no weekends, no call, which is one of the reasons why I chose breast imaging. A lot of the jobs sort of like inherently are like that, but not every job is going to be like that. And so for me, that was a hard boundary. And I knew that no matter how good a job was, if they were going to ask me to work evenings, weekends, holidays, it wasn't a good fit for me and my family. I mean, it's really my family, right? Like if I were single and I didn't have other obligations or responsibilities, it would be one thing. But now with kids, it's sort of different. Just trying to juggle everything. So for me, that was a big thing. Then I also wanted to have at least some time work from home, so some sort of hybrid opportunity. I wasn't necessarily looking for a 100% remote job. So those were sort of my two things. I wanted to have some time at home so that I could do some of the house stuff that needs to be done, be home for, I don't know, if someone needs to drop something off or get a package or whatever, like things that normal, regular people do. And then I also wanted no weekends and no holidays and no call. So for me, those were sort of my two big things. And I was willing to sort of work with the in-person remote side of things a little bit, but the no call was a hard no. So for me, those were my main priorities. Compensation mattered, but less so. The full-time, part-time situation I was more okay with. I could have gone full-time or part-time, and if you have been following along, I did start off full-time and now I'm part-time. So those were some things that I had in mind. Other things that people consider, like I said, obviously salary, how much call that you have to take, what type of call you have to take, general, is there MRI, what modalities are you reading, procedures, fluoro, everything. You have to think about all of your case mix. If you're not a breast imager like me, a lot of people don't like to read breast imaging, so you have to think about whether or not that's going to be part of your daily mix. And of course, there are benefits that you have to think about, like insurance benefits, retirement benefits, and malpractice coverage is another one that's a big one that you should think about, because you need not only malpractice for now, but you need tail coverage. And most jobs, like 98% of jobs, should cover your tail insurance because it can be up to 2 times the maximum premium from my understanding. So if your maximum premium for a malpractice insurance is like $18K, your tail could be 36K or something like that. And so if you don't have that covered, you would either need to get nose coverage from your new job that you're going to, or you would have to pay it. Like, you just have to pay that, which is a really big chunk of money. So things to think about. Obviously, none of us like to think about leaving a job, but you have to prepare for everything. I mean, I didn't think I was going to leave one job. I wasn't able to leave 2 jobs, and now here we are in my 3rd job, and it's just not something that you want to think about, but you have to. It's like a divorce, right? Like, you don't want to prepare for divorce, but like, what if you have to? So just make sure you protect yourself at the end of the day. I just remembered one more thing, and that was non-compete clauses. Every state has different non-compete rules. In California, my understanding is that they are not enforceable, but they can exist. But you need to check your non-compete in your state, and also realize that sometimes non-competes have, the clause can include, like, it's not just this site, but any site owned by that particular organization. So Rad Partners comes to mind. I don't know if this is still true, but I had heard at one point, again, not sure if it's true, that you couldn't work for anyone within a whatever mile radius of any Rad Partners site. And if you know, like, there you can have like 5 sites in one city or something, and that could maybe block you out of the entire city, any job. So just think about these things. Make sure you read your contract very carefully, and of course have an attorney review your contract, someone that is familiar with physician contracts, because otherwise they may just go through your contract and read it the same way that, you know, like you may not get a big benefit out of it. So make sure you choose somebody that's familiar with physician contracts. Okay, last thing I'm going to mention here at the beginning, productivity rules. You definitely want to understand what the RVU situation is. Some groups will define them differently. Some people will actually decrease the value of mammography, for example, or other high like RVU studies, just because they want to even the playing field. So make sure you understand how every group is going to calculate those RVUs. Do you get a bonus? You know, what does that situation look like? Like, make sure you understand the job before you take it, because you sign the contract and all of a sudden now your productivity goal is super high because you didn't understand that they recalculate the RVU in some way. That's going to leave you like with a really bad taste in your mouth. So those are sort of the main pieces of information I want to just get out there, that these are the things that you should at least have in the back of your mind. And then I'm going to talk about academics versus private practice, because I do think that negotiation is slightly different between the two. Okay, so academics, you will be told, or at least I was told, that academic contracts are pretty much standardized. Like, you cannot change them. Everyone has the same contract. You can't do anything with the contract. That's just how it is. Because in academics, a lot of times the contract comes from the College of Medicine, or it's not coming from like the radiology department specifically. It's coming from like somewhere higher up. And so in order to change it, they would have to go through a lot of channels, and most of the time I think they just say that this is a standard contract and you get what you get, you don't get what you don't get. We all do the same thing. The only changes are like if you're 0.8 or 0.6 or whatever FTE. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, when I think about when I'm imparting advice now on other people, when I'm telling them how to negotiate for academics, I think that you should still challenge that idea that everything is standard. I'm not saying to be mean, and I'm not saying that you should push the envelope too far, but I'm saying at least challenge it and try. So, for example, vacation weeks are something that are often negotiable that you may not know. Call obviously can be put in or out of your contract. Understand the implications of not taking calls. So if there's a salary decrease or there's something else that you have to do, think about that. I think in academics, you also want to really think about academic time. Maybe everybody at the assistant professor, introductory level, only gets a certain amount of academic time. Is that negotiable, or is there a way that you can get a certain day, like a Friday or a Monday? Those are highly coveted days, and sometimes they won't give it to you, but maybe that could be something that could be put into your contract. Obviously, volume expectations, you do need to think about that in academics, because you definitely want to you don't want to overburden yourself. And in academics, you're going to be taking on a lot of roles, and if that's who you are, but and so it's important to make sure that you're able to focus on your clinical work. You want to make sure you have a reasonable productivity goal. Sometimes they also have like a graduated productivity goal. So like if you're new, then it's going to take you a while to figure out how you can read your studies, read out residents, read out fellows, teach, and also sign all of your studies off, right? And so I don't think that it makes sense to have the newest person and the most seasoned person have the same productivity goal. So make sure that they have some sort of graduated volume expectation. I also think in academics, it's very important to understand the hierarchy and how you're going to move up the ladder. So at some places, some institutions, it's very cut and dry how you become assistant to associate to full professor. At some places, it's impossible to get to full professor. And so you should know going into it, what are the expectations of you? What are the things that will get you from assistant to associate professor? And also, does that change come with a salary increase? Does it come with more academic time? Like, what are the benefits of going up the ladder? Because so far, in the contracts that I saw for academics, it didn't really talk about that. And it can be either very transparent or it can be very opaque with how to go up the ladder. So you should ask about those things. I don't think they will put it in your contract, but you want to make sure you understand. But you definitely need to know what it means and how to get there, because some places you can actually get to full professor and have no change in salary, and you have to decide if that's okay with you or not. So anyways, just understand like what it means for your job and for you. One of the most important things about academics, like I said, is that they will really make you believe that it's a standardized contract and they cannot change the contract, and then you will sign this contract, and then you will find out later that maybe the person next to you got something different than you did. And so I think that you, like I said, push the envelope, and the places where I think that you can really maybe get a change is the sign-on bonus or a relocation fund. Sign-on bonus, they're sort of the same thing. You sort of want to get it in a lump sum rather than like reimbursement, especially for a relocation fund, because like say that they say that you can spend up to $15,000 and then it only takes you $5,000 to move, then those $10,000 are still on the table. So it's always better to just try to get it in a lump sum rather than just a reimbursement. So these are all other ways that you can maybe try to negotiate something and get a little bit more salary. Salaries in academics, I think, are pretty standardized. I don't think that you can really change the salary, which is like obviously the number one thing in private practice that I would encourage you to negotiate. But usually in academics, benefits are covered, like you have good benefits, and the only place that you may be able to sort of have some wiggle room is that initial sign-on bonus and relocation fund. And if you're smart, then you can also maybe negotiate some sort of retention bonus, although I'm not sure that you could do it, but you could try. I think it doesn't hurt to try. In this market, you for sure should try. But like I said, be nice about it, be gracious. Don't be rude or mean or like anything like that. I would never suggest that you are any of those things. Just see what you can negotiate. And if you have friends at the institution, find out from them like what people have done, because people are very creative. And I didn't even realize you could negotiate a lot of these things into your contract. I thought it was just like, that's what you get. So I learned a lot along the way. One last tip for academic negotiation, I just remembered, is negotiating some sort of position. Not a position, but like maybe you could negotiate for being like assistant chair of whatever committee or something like that, because those are the types of things that will help you go from assistant to associate to full professor. And if you have an interest already, I'm sure that they're hiring you to fill some of these roles, but having that from the get-go can increase your academic time, or it can I don't know, some of those positions come with a salary or compensation increase, and so you can definitely try to get one of those put into your contract with some sort of like whatever the benefit may be of doing that. So compensation in terms of time or money, and have that already put into your contract from the beginning. That could be something else that you can negotiate. Okay. Private practice is a little bit of a different beast, because in private practice, I would say that everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. And now you are truly dealing with like the group and not some sort of like bigger institution. There are going to be places that still say that everybody is standardized. I would ask, if they really say that, I would ask to see that contract. I would be like, okay, if they're all the same, then can I please see someone's contract? Because like people lie, okay? People lie. And depending upon the culture of the group, like there are some groups that are super nice and they're not going to lie to you and they're going to be like totally rosy. And some of those groups will be honestly super nice and super rosy and all of those things. And then some of them are going to not be any of those things, okay? They're actually just going to be cutthroat, like we don't care, we want to save all the pennies, especially if, depending upon like your partnership track situation, the partners want to keep as much money in their pockets as possible. And it's sort of a one-to-one relationship with the more money they give you, the less money that they have in their pockets. And so they are obviously going to be, they don't want to give you more than they really have to. Now in this market, they're already having to give out more than they want to, and so they're going to probably run a tough bargain. But if they need you, they need you, and you should definitely negotiate for everything that you possibly can. So obviously your salary up front, because that's going to be what you have in perpetuity, okay? That's going to be like really where that's the bulk of your benefits is right there, your salary. If you can get that increased, obviously give them a number that's higher than you think that they're gonna go. And when I say higher, I mean just go for it. Like if they offer you $350, go for $425. I mean, you're gonna meet somewhere in between. Again, like I said, be gracious, be super reasonable with them, but don't be afraid to ask for a big number, because if they want you, they'll come back to you with something that's realistic for them, and you can choose at that point whether or not you want to walk away. But if they ghost you, then maybe that's just not a group for you anyways. The second thing I think you can really negotiate hard on in private practice is vacation time. I think that you can definitely ask for either remote time or vacation time and ask for more, unless, like I said, that is totally standardized, in which case you're not going to be able to get that. But you might be able to get more compensation in terms of a sign-on bonus. And the sign-on bonus in private practice is going to be huge. I think that that is a place where you should for sure expect an increase if you ask for one, depending upon what number they started at. I do think that you can negotiate hard for a higher sign-on bonus, unless it's like something crazy ridiculous to begin with. Remember, sign-on bonuses often have an asterisk, okay? They come with like terms and conditions. The sign-on bonus often has to be repaid if you leave within a certain amount of time. And same with like tail coverage for malpractice. Sometimes they only cover it if you are going to be if you stay for a certain number of years, and it might be prorated if you leave earlier than that. So my point is, read the fine print. If you take a 100K sign-on bonus that you have to keep that you can accept all at once, but then you can only keep if you stay for 2 years, that means if you leave after 1 year, you have to pay back 50K. And so just remember to read between the lines and be careful, because these numbers are really alluring, but they're really meant to trap you in your job. And if you're miserable, it's obviously not going to be worth it at all. So make sure that you read all of the fine print, because you don't want to be stuck in a job. Malpractice, for example, you want to make sure that they pay it no matter when you leave. Sign-on bonus, you want to make sure you don't have to pay it back, because on the off chance that you do leave for whatever life circumstance happens, it'll be painful to pay it back, essentially. It'll be painful to pay it back. The number of years to partner is another place that you can potentially negotiate. The reason I say potentially is because a lot of times it's against standard. However, in recent years, it seems like the partnership track has like really shrunk. And if you are waiting more than like 2, maybe maximum 3 years to become partner, I would say there are better jobs out there. Like, no one should be making you wait 5 years or longer to become a partner anymore. You should get a seat at the table after just a couple of years. That's sort of where the market is right now. Call shifts and weekends and holidays are usually standardized among partners and non-partners, so not sure you're going to be able to negotiate that, but worth a shot. Obviously, you can negotiate out like, I don't read memo or whatever it is. You can probably negotiate that out unless they specifically need somebody to read those things. We talked about non-competes, but also remember that if there is some sort of termination clause, like you have to give 90 days notice, 120 days notice, whatever, maybe you can negotiate that down to like 60 days or 90 days from 120 or more. Just little things that will make your life easier on the off chance that you do end up leaving a job. Non-competes, you can ask to get rid of them. Good luck if they will do that for you. Sign-on bonus, obviously, I mentioned. But yeah, these are sort of the main things that I think you could really negotiate hard and potentially get. And always ask for more than you expect to get. Always ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, especially if you ask in a gracious way, like, I really love this job and I'm ready to sign, but I really need X, Y, and Z for family reasons or whatever reasons you have. Just be gracious, and I'm sure that it will all work out. Another thing is benefits in private practice. Sometimes they will cover your insurance, like for your family. Sometimes they won't, so that's negotiable. You can ask them to include your family. If they don't, you can also ask for maybe a higher retirement contribution or whatever retirement contribution there is. You can try to see if they would increase that or somehow match what you do, or whatever is already in their contract. You can try to increase it a little bit more. Like, there's no harm in asking. That's my point, is there's no harm in asking for these things. I don't suggest sending them a list of like 50 things to change in the contract, but at least find out where you can get the biggest bang for your buck and try to negotiate those things wherever your priorities are. If you are trying to invest, then try to maybe get more retirement money, like something like that. And obviously, like I said, salary, you can then, if you increase your salary, you can invest your own money and put it into your own retirement account. I don't know, I'm going on tangents here. I have imparted all of my best advice, I think, for contract negotiation. I hope this was a helpful video. Know your value. Your biggest asset is your ability to walk away from any contract negotiations. So please don't feel like you're obligated to take any job, because you're not. Feel free to walk away, and if they really want you, they will meet you where you are, okay? Unless you really need that specific job. And make sure you know your priorities, because that's where you're going to be able to draw the line and say, this is the job that I want, or this is the job that I don't want. And remember that the way that they react to your questions or what you want, that really shows you who the group is. So my favorite quote of all time: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I will leave you with that. I will see you in my next video. Bye.